I don't expect anyone to take a toy seriously, least of all me. But I'm going to set this down exactly as it happened because the ordinary pieces matter. I'm Lena, 29. I work nights on a rehab floor and sleep days in a small studio where the plants outlive me. Last spring, my sister mailed me a Cheer Up blind box, one of those designer figures people line up for. The foil said Labubu, big eyes and rabbit ears, but the figure inside wasn't on the checklist. Cream fur, the color of old gauze, glass, eyes a shade too wet, a felt cloak stitched with a crooked heart. The hang tag didn't list a series name. It carried a faint misprint that read, "Feed After Laughter." I assumed bad translation. I put it on my bookshelf, forgot it, until a teaspoon began to tap in my sugar jar at 2:11 p.m. Click, click like a patient fingernail. The next time I walked past the shelf, the toy was turned toward the hall as if it had learned where my bed was. I blamed vibrations, drafts, anything that didn't cost extra rent. Night shift shrank my world into repeats. When I got home at 7:48 a.m., the cloak hem was damp, as if it had walked through dew. A crescent of black grit sat on the counter. I wiped it and the gray bled like tired charcoal. I put the thing in my closet, top shelf, inside a moving box, taped shut. I dreamed a papery giggle coming from inside a tin, the kind of sound a phone makes when a call from a bad place is trying to arrive. I woke to the closet door standing open 3 inches and the tape peeled like a hangnail. The Labubu sat on my coffee table, precise and innocent, tag missing. I found the tag under the couch edges gummy. My neighbor's kid Leo, 2B, dinosaur pajamas as a lifestyle, saw me in the laundry room and said, "I like your bunny monster." I asked how he knew about it. "Because he knocked on our wall and I laughed," he said. And then he made a little breathy noise to show me, and it was almost a giggle, but wrong, like someone imitating a laugh after reading about it. I told him not to laugh back. His mom thanked me with the wary politeness reserved for neighbors who might be weird. I tried reason, counterfeit runs, customs with glass eyes, ARG pranks. I set my phone for a time lapse facing the shelf. Minutes of nothing. At 7:03 on the timeline, the frame snapped to a single image of the toy with its mouth open wider than molded, a rind of tiny kernel teeth showing and something thin and pink between them that vinyl shouldn't have. The file refused to scrub back to that frame. The progress bar slid under my finger like it knew. I moved it back to the shelf. At 3:21 a.m., my podcast glitched to a hiss, and 3 syllables breathed into my ear, Labubu, like a kid trying, out a new mouth. A draft lifted the plant leaf. "I see you," I told the dark. From the vent above the hallway came that papery voice, high and pleased. "Feed after laughter." I sat very still and accepted that the misprint was not a misprint. The rules were simple. The more the apartment laughed, the more it moved. Sugar tapped after sitcom clips. The plant soil furrowed like something small dragging a hand through it during stand-up. A scrape circled my bed frame in the exact rhythm of a crowd warming up. The smell shifted from damp attic to sweet frosting and back. I stopped playing anything funny, and the room went quieter in the way a predator's den is quiet between meals. I tried to get rid of it. Trash bag, box, closet with a chair jammed under the knob, twice down the chute. It came back both times, once sitting neatly, on the counter with the chain on my door still swaying, once in the center of my rug, mouth a degree wider than design allowed, cloak hem dry as paper, tag reappeared on my doormat, letters crisp, "Feed after laughter." I boiled the tag. The ink paled, then returned when the steam cleared. I called my sister. We laughed together, And in the pause, the wall behind the shelf exhaled like it had waited. I hung up and put my ear to the baseboard. Something tapped twice. The next day, Leo's mom asked if I heard scratching laughs in the vents. I lied no. On my water bill envelope, someone had tucked my missing hang tag like a neighbor doing you a favor. That afternoon, I decided to win by being boring. I went to work. I came home. No videos, no podcasts, no jokes. 2 days of silence starved the room. Then, at 1:12 a.m., a hollow marble rolled along my baseboard and stopped under the bed. And when I leaned with my phone light, I saw 2 pale ovals reflecting back, too close together for eyes, set in fur. I turned the light off before my nervous system educated me. A text arrived. A photo of my kitchen counter time-stamped 1 minute prior. The Labubu centered, a tiny white tooth standing on edge in front of it like a coin. Underneath, in a green bubble, feed after laughter. My own teeth felt like inventory. I knocked on 2B and asked to leave a white noise machine by Leo's bed. For me, I said. That night, the vents were quiet. In the morning, a crescent of black grit sat under my door like a smile. I wasn't brave. I was sleepless. I set a clear zipper bag on my bed, vacuum hose ready, phone by the plant playing 30 minutes of canned laugh track low enough to carry through sheetrock. At 7 minutes, the sugar spoon tinked itself. 2 tiny footfalls mapped the laminate, fabric rasped on fabric. A small weight settled on the bed above the bag. I let out a brittle little laugh, someone else's, tinfoil and wrong. And the weight arrowed toward it. I yanked both zipper tabs in one slap, shoved the vacuum hose into the valve, knee knocking the nightstand, heart trying to exit through my ribs. The bag ballooned, then collapsed. The shape inside flailed, cat-sized. Frantic, precise, claws that didn't exist scissoring at plastic. Through fog, I saw the mouth cut too wide, the glass eyes misting, the felt cloak darkening with condensation from a breath that wanted room. A sound skittered out of it, halfway between a giggle and a squeak toy dying. I pressed the hose harder, until the seams sang. Moisture traced a smile from the mouth. Something pinged at the corner, a tooth, bright and white, knocked loose by pressure. Another. The imitation laugh fell apart into paper gasps. The motor changed pitch. The thing stopped throwing itself forward and made the small, slow motions that look like a child adjusting for sleep. I taped the valve, taped the edges, taped the whole bag into a clear brick, then taped my own trembling hands because shaking can look like permission. I carried the brick to the trash room. The chute swallowed it with a not enough thud. I stood in the stale hallway air and waited for another bag to arrive out of the walls. Nothing did. Back in the kitchen, a single white tooth still stood upright by the sugar jar, as if a tip had been left. I rinsed it. The enamel shone like something that had lived in a pocket too long. I slept 3 hours without hearing my name. In the morning, there was a box by my door, cheap cardboard labeled Labubu family. Inside, a replacement felt cloak with a crooked heart and a note in schoolroom cursive. We heard you laugh. That afternoon, the building chat lit with parents asking if kids had started giggling in sleep. 4 yeses, 1 posted a recording. Giggle, whisper, sugar tapping glass. I asked the landlord to seal the trash chute. He did, grumbling about odors, migrating. After the kitchen smelled like air and the baseboard was only wood, I dared a podcast. Nothing tapped. I let myself believe in plumbing and tape again. Then, on the day I picked up change of address forms, the moving elevator carried up a small unmarked package like a stowaway. Inside tissue that smelled like rain and attic lay a tuft of pale fur, a fresh cloak, and a card in neat grade school. Print. We still hear you." When I stepped back and the sugar spoon was quiet, the plant leaf still, and on the shelf the grin looked a degree wider. "I am not asking you to believe a toy. I am asking you to count the ordinary things that learned my name and to understand why the apartment goes hungry when I don't laugh." I stayed at my friend's place for another week, trying to convince myself that the silence meant safety. But every night I'd wake up certain that someone or something had just been standing beside the couch. The air would feel heavier, sweeter, as if it had been filtered through sugar before I breathed it in. Her dog started avoiding me, choosing to sleep in the bathroom with the door closed. On the 8th night, I dreamed I was back in my old apartment, the walls bending inward, the ceiling pressing down. In my hands, I held the Labubu, but its fur wasn't fabric anymore. It was damp and warm, like an animal's. Its glass eyes rolled in their sockets and focused on me, and its stitched mouth slowly pulled open, wider than it should have, revealing tiny white teeth. It whispered something I couldn't quite hear, except for the last word, "Laugh." I woke up drenched in sweat, and the first thing I saw was a small patch of cream fur on the floor by the couch. It looked exactly like the fur from the dream. My friend swore she didn't own anything like it. I didn't argue. That same morning, another package came for me, no return address. This time it was a glass jar filled with something thick and pale, like frosting left out too long. Taped to the lid was a note. "We're still hungry." I left it on the kitchen counter and tried to ignore it. 2 hours later, I noticed the jar was empty, and the lid was back on, tight as if it had never been opened. That night, we decided to burn the toy if it ever showed up again. We kept the fire pit ready, lighter fluid nearby. But the Labubu didn't return. Instead, we started hearing tapping at the windows, always 3 quick taps, pause, then 2 more. Sometimes it came from the ground floor, sometimes from the 2nd story. Impossible unless someone had a ladder. My friend's dog began growling at nothing, his hackles up, eyes fixed on the shadows. One night, while my friend was asleep, I went to the kitchen for water and found the Labubu sitting in the middle of the table. Its head was tilted, glass, eyes clouded with condensation. A fresh hang tag dangled from its paw. "Feed before silence." My heart hammered so hard it felt like it might crack my ribs. I grabbed the lighter fluid, doused it, and lit the match. The toy's fur caught instantly, and for a moment I thought it was over. But then the flames hissed out, like someone had sucked the air from the room. The Labubu sat there, untouched, and now its mouth was slightly open, showing those impossibly small teeth. I ran upstairs to wake my friend, but when we came back down, the table was empty. In its place was the glass jar from before, full again, the lid sealed tight. The following morning, we left the house. We drove 2 towns over and stayed at a motel. No forwarding address, no social media updates. I thought distance might finally break the chain. But the second night there, I woke to laughter, my own, warped and slowed, playing from somewhere inside the room. I turned on the light. The Labubu sat on the motel desk, a smear of something sweet and white on the table beneath. I didn't scream. I didn't touch it. I simply walked out of the room and kept walking until the sun came up. When I returned, the toy was gone. My friend said she never saw it. She looked at me like she wasn't sure if I was losing my mind. Maybe I was. I left her place the next day and rented a basement apartment under a fake name. I bought locks, cameras, even nailed the windows shut. Weeks passed without incident. Then, last night, the camera alert pinged my phone. I opened the feed and froze. In the footage, The Labubu sat on the kitchen counter. The timestamp showed it had appeared. Between frames, 1 second the counter was empty, the next it was there. It turned its head toward the camera, tilted it just slightly, and the feed cut to static. I went into the kitchen with a hammer, ready to smash it, but there was nothing there. Only the jar, sitting in the middle of the counter, brimming with that thick, pale sweetness. My hand shook as I picked up the note beside it. 4 words, written in perfect block letters. We fed while you slept. I don't know what it means. I don't know if the jar is meant for me or if I'm the jar. But tonight I'm not sleeping. And if I hear that laugh, my own laugh coming from somewhere it shouldn't, I'm leaving everything behind. The problem is I'm starting to wonder if there's anywhere left to go.